Obituaries, brought to you by Curtis & Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg for pre-need funerals, burials, or cremation since 1975. Curtis & Son Funeral Home. Call 256-245-4361. Highway 280 in Childersburg and Highway 21, Talladega Highway in Sylacauga. Since 1975, Curtis & Son Funeral Home. For funerals, burials, or cremations, pre-need planning, it's all through Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg. Ethelene B. Brooks, age 76 of Sylacauga, died Sunday. Graveside service for Ms. Brooks will be this afternoon at 2 o'clock from Rocky Mount Baptist Church Cemetery. And L.C. McMurphy will officiate that service. Online condolences at curtisonfh.com. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Public visitation is today for Larry Howell, age 78 of Sylacauga. That public visitation is today from 2 until 4 o'clock at Curtis & Son North in Sylacauga. A private family graveside service will be held at a later date in Mobile. Mr. Howell worked for Kimberly-Clark Corporation as the Vice President of Marketing and Sales. In lieu of flowers, donation can be made to a favorite charity. Online condolences at curtisonfh.com. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Mrs. Kimberly Hayes, age 50 of Sylacauga, died died yesterday at Coosa Valley Medical Center. Funeral arrangement to be announced by Radley Smith Funeral Home. Aline Wood Johnson, age 96 of Sterrett, died at her residence on Monday. Radley Smith Funeral Home, Sylacauga, in charge of the arrangements. Funeral service for Rhonda Gramling Landers, age 51 of Sylacauga, will be today at 2 o'clock from the chapel of Radley Smith Funeral Home. Brother John Limbaugh officiating. Burial in the Marble City Cemetery. Ms. Landers died Saturday, January 1st. Visitation today, 1 until 2 o'clock at the funeral home. Radley Smith Funeral Home, Sylacauga, directing. Michaela Taylor died Friday, December 31st. Funeral arrangement to be announced by Community Funeral Home. And Annie Amy died Saturday, January 1st. Funeral arrangement to be announced by Community Funeral Home. Online condolences at communityfuneralhome.org. Mr. James Ludwig Colvin, age 95, died December 24th in Shreveport. An additional visitation outside of the Shreveport visitation. An additional visitation will be held at Ursery Funeral Home in Talladega on Friday, January the 7th from 12:30 until 1:30. A graveside service will follow immediately at Lincoln Cemetery in Lincoln at 2 o'clock. Mr. Colvin was a native of Lincoln, Alabama, and a native resident of Shreveport for more than half a century. Online condolences at urseryfuneralhome.com. Ursery Funeral Home, Talladega, directing. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home and Crematory in Talladega announcing the funeral arrangements for Doris Johnson, age 72, who died January the 1st. Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary announcing the death of Willie Ann Jones, age 90, who passed away December 29th. Online condolences at terrysmortuary.com. Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary in Talladega, directing. And memorial service for Mr. Joe Samuel White of Talladega, age 67, will be Wednesday at 11 a.m. from Terry's Mortuary Chapel, with the Reverend A.G. McKinney delivering the eulogy. There's no visitation scheduled. In lieu of flowers, the family requests that donations be made to the Willie and Betty Farrier Foundation Scholarship Fund. Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary at Talladega in charge of the arrangements. And Danielle Morgan passed away last week, and the graveside service for Danielle will be on Saturday at 11 o'clock. I'll be officiating that service. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. And Kristen Camacho died in Prattville on Saturday. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel in Sylacauga, in charge of the arrangements. This obituary report this morning, courtesy of Curtis & Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg. For pre-need funerals, burials, or cremation since 1975, Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.